Hello and welcome. I am so excited to talk to you about this subject today. Sleep. We all want it, we all need it, and we don't get enough of it, right? I know myself, I have struggled with sleep for a long time, and I do great sometimes, and sometimes I don't do so great. But we need sleep for so many different functions, right? When we don't get the right amount of sleep, our moods are shady. Our moods are awful. We don't want to do the things that are good for us, right? We don't want to eat the beautiful Brussels sprouts and salmon and beans and all of those lovely things. Instead, we go for the comfort foods that aren't so good for us. And then what happens? Then we don't sleep well. We don't want to exercise. We're just in a lull. So I'm really, really hoping that this presentation is going to open up some really, really big ideas for you. Maybe some of the ideas are what you've experienced before, and this is not new to you at all. But I am going to provide you with not only nutritional information about how to get the best sleep that you possibly can, but I'm going to give you some great lifestyle tips. Okay, so let's do this. All right, let me share my screen. All right, so I'm sharing my screen now. And here we go. We're going to talk about nutritional support for sleep. Okay. And of course, if you are under doctor's care, if you are struggling with any other issues with sleep that are super deep that you have been seeing someone for, please make sure you always consult your practitioner or your professional for making any of these lifestyle changes or medical related decisions. Okay. So why do we need proper sleep? Now, it's not only sleep, but it's the right kind. It's the quality of sleep, deep sleep, the REM sleep, refreshing sleep. We need all of these cycles of sleep so we can restore our brain, right? We do house cleaning when we sleep, and it's really important to get rid of old cells and old tissues, right? All right. So why do we need this? All right. So we have we have many, many, many studies that show increased risk factors for diabetes, obesity, insulin resistance, and all of these inflammatory related conditions from poor sleep. We also experience cortisol dysregulation. What does that mean? That means that cortisol is supposed to wake us up, okay? And at the end of the day, that cortisol from going super high in the morning times to wake us up to the evening time, that cortisol goes in a downward trend. What happens in that downward trend is that now we have melatonin, right? They both, cortisol and melatonin, run inverse. Melatonin helps us with our mellow mood. We want to sleep when we have higher melatonin. So those two hormones actually work together in side by side, but in opposition. Okay. So when we see high cortisol, oftentimes it in the evening time, right? Then this is what cortisol dysregulation is, and we can't fall asleep. What we want to do is we're trying to calm that cortisol. We're trying to tamper it down. And then what do? right? We eat carbohydrates at night, or maybe it's a wine, or maybe whatever it is for you, you know what your patterns are. Okay, a lack of sleep has also been found to trigger increased level of hunger hormone called ghrelin, right? It also has an effect on your levels of leptin, which is your fullness hormone. So what happens is you're not getting those messages, and you're not able to control your eating as well as you normally do when the leptin levels are disrupted. Same thing, you're always hungry, you're always looking for that next best thing, right? That's the ghrelin. That's your hunger hormone. It's just out of control. So not only that, we see in studies, this one study in particular, 20% increase in energy intake, in the amount of calories over 4 days, right? They say, the research points to just one poor night of sleep can make us insulin resistant. It's crazy. So let me tell you a little bit about your circadian patterns, your circadian rhythm. This is your body clock, right? It's governed by the sun or even the light when we wake up. That early morning exposure to sunlight is imperative. And maybe we've talked about this earlier in the conference, but you want to have your eyes exposed to sunlight, or not direct sunlight, but just the outside brightness within an hour of waking. What I like to do is remove my sunglasses while I walk my dogs for that first hour of the day. Okay, so this is what's going to start your body clock for the day. So all of these organs that we have in our body, our heart, our gut, our brain, they have different rhythms, daily rhythms, which are influenced by the sleep and wake cycle. And just that 2 to 10 minutes, I mean, you don't even have to do an hour like I do, but 2 to 10 minutes of early morning exposure really is a helpful thing. Now, what I want to do is discuss, before we go into the food, I know you're waiting for the food, but let us talk about the pollutants, the things that really, they get in the way of good sleep. Okay, so maybe this isn't just foods. This is really important to know. It's not just what you're eating, it's what you're doing. But watching TV till really late at night, or on your computer very, very late or early into the hours, right? Who knows how long you're up there? But it emits a blue light, and that blue light interferes with our melatonin production. All right, so we want to be very, very careful there. So the blue light is, we make that melatonin in our pineal glands, and that blue light interferes with the production. Okay, the other things about sleep. So we want to understand that anything that disrupts our cortisol is going to disrupt your sleep. So what happens to disrupt your cortisol levels, right? So any kind of blood sugar issues, right? Whether it's too high or too low, that drop in blood sugar where the cortisol has to be secreted to as if to bring that cortisol, or rather bring the blood sugar back up after the blood sugar drops. Okay, so that's an inhibitor. The feelings that we have, whether they're maybe unexpressed emotions or unprocessed emotions, anything like toxins or anxiety in our body, anything that can create that cortisol upheaval can really play havoc on your sleep. All right, so food sensitivity, same thing, digestion, anything that's going to disrupt cortisol. So some other things that can inhibit sleep would be mineral imbalance, like low magnesium and zinc. Anything related to copper levels. Now, copper levels are interesting because zinc and copper go hand in hand. If we do not, let's say our zinc levels are too low, then our copper levels actually are too high. And so where else do we see people with high copper levels? Not a lot of people are talking about this, but people that, let's say, have an IUD, or even birth control pills can create high copper levels. Let's see, smoking can increase copper levels. Same thing with, let's say, uncoated copper pans. Those copper pans should be coated. That's a big deal. And then really just being stressed out can interfere with our detoxification capacity. And then what happens? We're not able to release that excess copper that we normally do through our liver. So alcohol and caffeine consumption, that can definitely wreak havoc on our sleep. Now, I know those people that say that they can have a cup of coffee or a cup of espresso before they go to sleep after that nice dinner, but I find it hard to believe that they're getting really good sleep, right? Alcohol is the same way. So alcohol is, at first, it binds to the GABA receptors in your brain. So it mellows you out and you feel calm and relaxed. But then what happens when that wears off is that it's actually a central nervous system stimulant. Okay. So exercise is great, but if, and better to do some at any time than none at all. Absolutely. But if you're having problems sleeping and you are exercising late into the day, you may want to try and exercise a little bit earlier in the day and see what happens. Same thing with eating. I know for my own self and my clients, when we eat an early meal and maybe take an after dinner walk, it is so much easier to digest, process, and really metabolize that food and have a better sleep. So you're not listening to the gurgles in your gut, or maybe GERD is an issue that keeps you up. That's a gastroesophageal reflux, any kind of gas. You're still digesting your food, right? That's what that's telling us, is that when we feel those digestive complaints, the body's working overtime. And that's one thing that's also going to increase your cortisol levels. Okay, and actually I should say, not only increase your cortisol, but increase your overall body inflammation. And we know about inflammation, right? Inflammation is the cornerstone of all these chronic issues. We see heart disease, cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, all of those things. So let's talk about, I know you're waiting for this, but things that you can do with food, okay? And I'm also going to talk about a little bit of supplementation sprinkled in the mix here. But magnesium is so important. We need magnesium for over 300 chemical reactions in our body. And so where do we get the magnesium? You know about bananas, I'm sure. Dark leafy green vegetables, nuts and seeds, and avocado. You can supplement, of course. Food is your best, but I'm going to say you can up to about 350 milligrams a day of magnesium glycinate, or threonate is helpful. Okay, so zinc. What has zinc? I'm sure you know this one, but a lot of protein, right, has zinc. Meat, eggs, legumes, fish, and oysters are a huge, huge proponent of zinc. And you can supplement with 15 milligrams a day. Zinc happens to be wonderful for our immune system as well. So you definitely want to pay attention to your levels of zinc. Tryptophan. All right. Tryptophan, let me come back here. But tryptophan-rich foods are in our carbohydrates. Now, do we want to go out and eat a ton of these? No, because that will keep us up, because our blood sugar will rise too high. But mindful consumption of dairy, and when I say dairy, I mean fermented dairy like yogurt, cottage cheese, aged cheeses, nuts and seeds, oats, preferably the steel cut version, eggs, pasture-raised poultry, and fish, wild, pasture-raised beef, and soy, and making sure that you're eating organic soy. So you can supplement if you have a real big problem with sleep. You can find tryptophan out there in health food stores and supplement 1 to 2 grams nightly. So here are some sources of tryptophan. As you can see, the highest one is yogurt. 211 milligrams. That's 75%. Okay. All right. So here are some herbal solutions. Now, these herbs, I personally like to use them in a tea form because they just are just a little bit more easy to take. It's enjoyable, and you can really titrate the amount. And I like to start really, really slow when it comes to titrating these herbs. So I may start with like a half a cup of tea. Other people really, really like the capsules or tinctures. So you can see what's best for you. Okay, so valerian. Valerian reduces the time to get to sleep, and it actually also improves sleep quality by increasing neurotransmitter GABA. Okay, and so that really helps calm anxiety, calm the restlessness when you're trying to sleep. If you have like restless legs or just restless mind, hamster wheel mind. And based on the reviewed studies, the effective dosage of valerian root extract for the treatment of insomnia ranged around the 400 milligram range. Okay. All right. So chamomile, everybody's best friend here. Who doesn't love chamomile? Chamomile is another big one for reducing anxiety. So for greater benefit, you're going to want to take between 220 to 1600 milligrams of chamomile. But I personally like the tea bag. Again, the liquids may keep you up at night if you are sensitive. So maybe try it maybe 3 hours before you go to bed, or just have a small cup. That helps. Okay. CBD. CBD is a potent anti-inflammatory and it's very central nervous system calming. 80% of the people in one study showed reduced anxiety and 67% improved sleep. All right, so Tart Cherry. If you haven't heard of Tart Cherry, it is a godsend because it not only helps with sleep, but it helps inflammation. It also, it's wonderful for joint relief, joint pain, and really, really helps with sleep. So what you can try, you have a couple of options here. You can try the juice. Now, I find that the juice, even though it's tart, it can and sometimes can and will increase blood sugar. So you can also find the capsules, right, which are the extract, and you can try those. You'll find the dosage on the back of the bottle. So in the literature, there are the amount for tart cherry juice is 8 ounces twice a day. All right, lavender. Now, lavender is delicious. Lavender, I mean, you can cook with lavender, of course, but using it in a salt soak, an Epsom salt soak, that is an amazing thing. Now, Epsom salts are amazing. You're going to get magnesium from those Epsom salts, but adding a little bit of lavender oil can be luscious and really helps sleep. I also like lavender, just the essential oil rubbed on the soles of my feet. That really, really helps get it into your bloodstream super fast when it's on the bottom of your soles of your feet. Now, also, you need to know that lavender can have estrogenic qualities. So you must be very careful if there are estrogen issues in your family, like estrogen mediated cancers and that kind of thing. So be careful with lavender if that's the case. Lemon balm is, it's been used for ages and ages in the Middle Ages for stress and anxiety and for sleep promotion. And that is dosed at about around 2 to 3 grams a day. You can also find it in extracts of 600 to 1600 milligrams. I like, lemon balm you can actually find in stores and you can use it in chicken, in making flavored oils, in your soups. It's very citrusy, as you can imagine. All right, passion flower, a beautiful one for pre-menopause and post-menopause, around the perimenopause age. I would say that passion flower is one of the best for anxiety. Also, it's really wonderful for pain, heart rhythm problems, and again, menopausal symptoms. And you can try a tea made with a tablespoon of dried passion flower, at least for about a week until you start to feel the effects. Okay, So to sum it up, I know this is short, but to sum it up, you want to use your, again, I'm going to add a few things in the summary here, but use your bed for sleep. You shouldn't be on your computer or stressing out in your bedroom. If you are one of those people that has tossed and turned before you go to sleep, you may want to write your concerns down in a journal. Journaling is wonderful for just loading the day onto pages. Eating early, I mentioned that it's a godsend. If you go to bed at 10, which is a great time to go to bed, eating early at, let's say, 5 would be fantastic. And I mean, I can go on and on and on about intermittent fasting. That's another workshop in and of itself, but that is a true blue helper for so many things, for lowering inflammation, helping your sleep and hormones and all of your hunger and fullness hormones, regulating your cortisol, all of that. If you wake up, try your best not to look at the clock. It's not going to do you any good anyway, right? So don't look at the clock, because you'll just ingrain a pattern in your brain and you'll always be doing that, right? You'll never seem to get back to sleep because of the stress involved, of the anxiety about seeing that time, right? So it's not going to do you any good. Remember that. Also, limit caffeine after 10 a.m., right? If you drink coffee or tea, try not to drink it after that time. Even if you drink hot chocolate, chocolate does have caffeine. Chocolate is also wonderfully high in magnesium, but if you're sensitive to the caffeine, you need to be careful. If you have a hard night of sleep, the last thing you want to do is play catch up, because that's going to affect the day. Now, the present night of sleep, you'll sleep lighter because you slept a little bit in the day. So best thing to do is get your system synced up again to that rhythm, that circadian rhythm that we were talking about earlier. Wine, alcohol is tempting when you're wanting to sleep, but it really doesn't do you any good. Remember, I talked about how wine or alcohol binds to those receptors of the GABA in your brain, and it initially works, but then afterwards you're going to crash. It also does raise your blood sugar, and that will help issue that bottomless crash, right? So that's not what we want. Trying to work out a little bit earlier in the day is a real helping hand. And I have personally tried that, and I swear by exercising at the time where my cortisol is at its highest. That makes me feel good. And then I can unwind with like a nice yoga retreat, nice yin yoga class at the later hours of the evening after dinner, which is really nice, I find, after a nice walk. Meditation's great. I know I didn't talk a lot about that, but finding any tool that you possibly can. You can work on a breath work routine that you can find so many on YouTube. You can try tapping, EFT, where you tap on meridians to calm. That's wonderful. There is so many things. If you just Google, you can find a lot of technological advances out there that will assist your sleep. There are apps that you can put on to measure your sleep that it can really, really be helpful. Other things that you can try are apps like Insight Timer. That's wonderful. And I can help you more if you'd like. I'm just going to stop the sharing of the screen. All right. There we go. All right, everybody, I hope this was good for you. And if you would like to contact me further, you can always reach me on my website, katdillon.com. And if you'd love to know more about the things that I do, you can email me at kat@katdillon.com. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day.